Hi, I'm Susan Cotton, the teacher author behind Ms. Cotton's Corner. Thank you so much for joining me for the next video in our series, 30 Days, 10 Minutes to a More Literate Classroom. Today, I want to talk to you about genre, and I want to tell you how I like to teach genre. But first, I want to start with why. Why do I teach genre? What is the goal of a genre study? One of my goals as a teacher is to do the best I can to help my students understand how different disciplines work, how they're organized, how a scientist thinks maybe the same as, but also maybe different than an historian. And text, fiction and nonfiction, these are disciplines that students who want to go on and do more advanced studies, they're going to need to understand how these disciplines work. But even everyday students who don't want to study English in college will need to have some basic understanding of how the discipline of literature is organized. And how it's organized is by genre. We start with our two basic categories, fiction and nonfiction. And from there, it's broken down into all kinds of smaller genre. You have historical fiction and mystery. You have fiction, you have nonfiction about space and nonfiction about insects and nonfiction about animals. So when we break things down for kids and help them understand the categories, we're actually creating a place in their brain for information to fit. When we give them the language and the terminology, they have then a placeholder in their brain where we can put information about the different genre. So when I teach genre, I like to start by playing genre bingo. You may already have a genre bingo in your classroom. If so, awesome. Go ahead and use that. If not, you can check out mine on TPT and see if it's something that's useful for you. I start by playing genre bingo with the simplest variation, which is the kids have a bingo card and I have the caller cards. It's your traditional bingo. I turn over a caller card and I say historical fiction. And if a student has historical fiction on their bingo card, they mark it off. That I use as an introduction. But I am very aware of the fact that simply playing bingo, all I'm doing is building awareness of the terms. But I'm not giving students any really useful information about the genre. The next time we play genre bingo, I do not use the caller cards. The next time we play bingo, I go to my classroom library, to my book nook beforehand, and I pull 25 books, one that matches each genre on their bingo card. And we play bingo by me holding up the book, putting it usually under the document camera. I read them the title, they can see the cover art, and we look at the blurb if there is any. If it's a nonfiction text, we open it up and look at the table of contents and the index and some of those text features, and they have to infer the genre based on those clues that we go through. The resource I've created on TPT has a recording sheet for you. If you play that way, you'll need to write down the titles that you've already called, and then you check them off as you call them, and that way you can check your bingos really, really quickly if a student calls out that they have a bingo. But then, of course, the ultimate goal is we want to teach students the terms. We want to teach students the characteristics. But why? Why do we want them to understand how a mystery is different from historical fiction? Well, I'm sure you've thought about this before. When you are reading a mystery, if you pick up a good old Agatha Christie, you know certain things about that book before you even crack the cover. You know there's going to be a crime, probably somewhere near the beginning of the book. You know there is going to be a detective. Maybe she's an old lady with knitting needles. Maybe she's a super spy on the international stage. But whatever form that detective takes, there will be somebody who is trying to figure out who done it. You know there are going to be clues, and you also know, because you are a wise reader and consumer, you know there are going to be red herrings, things that seem like clues that turn out not to be clues. You know all of that before you even crack the cover. And that makes you, as a reader, able to make predictions, to understand and to comprehend that book at a higher level because you already have an understanding of how the book will be organized. Ultimately, genre connects to text structure and text features and text characteristics. You know, if you pick up a nonfiction book, that a good strategy is checking out the table of contents to see what the information is and if any of it will be useful or interesting to you. You also know that if there's a heading in a nonfiction text, you can predict the information that you're going to be reading because it's going to match the heading. You can use the things that you know about genre to predict and comprehend. And that, of course, is ultimately what we want for our students. Additionally, we want them to read across many different genres because we know that as students read across different genres and they read widely, they are building background knowledge or schema about lots and lots of different topics. Whether they're reading nonfiction or fiction, they are still building background knowledge. I have read some nonfiction in my life about English history, but I have read a ton of historical novels about English history. So I can name all the wives of Henry VIII because I've read novels about them, right? I have background knowledge gained from my reading that I was never taught in school. That's what we want because that kind of background knowledge or schema helps kids succeed in all the subject areas. And of course, it propels them forward to do even more reading. So, start by teaching the terms. Build awareness, build familiarity, then engage students in using their inferences and the context clues to predict what the genre are, and then the final step is to get them reading. So again, the resource that I have on TPT includes everything you need for an independent activity that encourages students to read across at least 5 different genres because they're going to get a genre bingo. When I introduce the genre bingo independent activity in my classroom, I do it first with picture books. If you've been watching the videos and reading the blog posts, you know I'm a big fan of picture books. Getting a picture book bingo is no big deal. It does not feel difficult for kids, and most kids can accomplish it in 3 to 5 days. But the benefits are huge. Number one, the success of doing something like that. There are lots of readers in your classroom who have never met a reading goal in their lives. The teachers say every year we're going to read these number of books or we're going to do this, and they've never ever made it. Well, this they can do. So you're building their confidence in themselves as readers. You're also exposing them again, just a little dip, right? Reading a picture book biography, it's 25 pages. It's no big deal. But if you really find yourself just drawn in by the picture book biography of Eleanor Roosevelt, then you're probably going to go get a chapter book biography about Eleanor Roosevelt and learn even more. So the picture books can be a way for kids to dip their toes in, start to build schema, and also start to develop an understanding of which genre they like and which ones are not for them. In my classroom, I often find students struggle to choose books for themselves. They're very used to a teacher or a parent handing them a book and saying, now read this and do a project, and they very dutifully do it. But I don't want that. I mean, I do give them books and I do have them do projects. Don't get me wrong. But what I really want is for them to be so hungry for reading that they're going to go get books on their own. But in order to do that, they have to understand how books work, how the discipline of literature is organized, the genre, the categories, the ways that we think about books, the characteristics of the books, and then they can figure out which ones they love. So, I hope this has helped you think about genre. Go ahead and grab a genre bingo, whether you have one or whether you grab mine from TPT. Get started playing it, but remember, don't just stop with the terms. get into the characteristics, and then make sure you turn it over to the kids so that they are independently practicing their genre. You will be so glad that you did. I really appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for watching, and happy teaching.